This lesson is converting between fractions and decimals, decimals and fractions, fractions and percents, percents and fractions, and decimals to percents, percents to decimals. Just as a brief review of percents, percents are based on the number 100, whereas decimals are based on the number 1. So we kind of have to do like a beef up of a decimal to get to a percent. So we're going to think about it this way. If I have an 85% on a test, that's really 85 over 100, or 85 out of 100, or 85 hundredths. Cool? All right, so we're going to go for it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert this decimal to a percent. See, this is really 37 over 100, or 37 hundredths, okay? So that means it's 37%. So in order to convert a decimal to a percent, you're going to multiply the decimal by 100 to get the percent. Cool? So if I do that, 37. Remember when we were multiplying by powers of 10, we just moved the decimal point to the right if we were beefing it up, which we are. In this case, I'm moving the decimal point to the right 2 places. Well, what about the number 3? Well, if you think about it, it's like $3. It's still in decimal form, but I need to multiply it by 100. So this becomes 300%. So the number 3 is equal to 300%. Well, if you think about it this way, 1 is equal to 100%, isn't it? Right? So 3 is going to have to equal 300% because you're multiplying by 3 in this case. Now, if you're going to convert the percent to a decimal, you're really going to divide it by 100, right? So that means move the decimal point to the left 2 places. So 14% becomes 14 hundredths. Now, 0.5%, well, you say, well, there's already a decimal in there. I know, but it has a percent symbol, so it's part of a percent. It's a half a percent. So I still have to move the decimal point 2 places to the left, and I get 0.005. Cool? And what about 500%, you guys? You're like, well, 100% is 1. So 500% has to be the number 5. But if I'm moving my decimal point 2 places to the left, it makes sense. Ta-da! Now, how about converting fractions to percents? Well, you just have to multiply the fraction by 100. So if I'm going to do 2/5, I need to multiply it by 100. Well, what do I put the 100 over? Well, 1, of course. So 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 100 20 times. So the answer here will be 40%. And the problem is when you're writing something as a percent, you need to put the percent symbol. Otherwise, 40 means 40 Hershey bars. 40% means 40% of 1 Hershey bar, which is completely different. What about the next one? Well, this is so cool. You're going to change your mixed to an improper fraction, so that becomes 11 over 8. And what are you multiplying by? 100, right? So you say, well, 4 goes into 8 twice. 4 goes into 125 times. I can't cancel anywhere else, so I have to multiply 25 times 11. I'll do that by hand because this whole section is by hand. So it's 25, 25. So 275. Now this is percent, you guys. It's uggo. It's a total uggo. So what you want to do is you want to convert that fraction to a mixed number. So when you do that, you're going to do 2 into 275. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 2 goes into 15 7 times. So it's 137 1/2% though. Okay? Next, if we want to convert percents to fractions, we're going to divide by 100. So we're going to do 45 divided by 100. Well, how do I do that? Well, it's 45 over 100, right? Because you're dividing by 100. And then, of course, you're going to simplify. 5 goes into 45 9 times. 5 goes into 120. And I'm done. How about 120%? Well, it's 120 divided by 100. So that equals 120 over 100. Let's simplify. Yeah, let's. 20 goes into 100 5 times. 20 goes into 120 6 times. So it's going to be improper, which is fine. You can leave it like that, but you know me, I can't stand it. It's 1 1/5. And again, I don't put the percent symbol because I'm just writing it as a fraction. How about converting from decimals to fractions? Well, this, you need to kind of deal with the fact and know your decimal place values. 1, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, right? So there they are. So this is really 56 hundredths, which is 56 over 100. That's it. 56 hundredths is 56 over 100. And then, of course, we're going to have to simplify this, correct? So I'm going to divide them by 2 first, and then see if I have to go further. 2 goes into 150 times. And 2 goes into 56 28 times. Oh, I didn't do it enough, so I'm going to divide by 2 again. 14 over 25 is my final answer. Yes, this is a fraction, but we always want to simplify to the lowest terms. How about 1.6? Well, the 0.6 is 6/10, so it's 1 6/10. Done. Well, not really done because you really have to simplify. 2 goes into both. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 10 5, and I'm done. Okay, how about converting fractions to decimals? Well, this is where you're going to have to do a little bit of long division, but you can handle it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 8 and divide it into 7, and we're going to go out several decimal places. 8 is a whole number, so I don't have to move any decimal places, just bring it up. 8 doesn't go into 7. 8 goes into 70 8 times. So when I do that, I'll get 64. Subtract, I'll get 6. 8 goes into 60 7 times, 56. Yay, 8 into 40 goes 5. So it's 0.875. For fun, what would it be as a percent? Well, that would be 87.5% because I would move it 2 places to the right. Cool. How about 3 3/4? Well, 3 is just plain old 3. And 3/4 written as a decimal, well, do the division. 4 goes into 3.00. So it doesn't go in here. 7 times 28. 20 left, 2 left over, bring down the 0. So 3.75. And most people think about it as 3/4 are 75 cents, right? So 3.75. All right, so now we have some more complicated conversions. How about 5 6? And what we want to do is we want to convert it to a percent and also a decimal. Okay, well, here's the deal. Let's do the decimal first. and then I'll talk to you about doing it as a percent. What we're going to do is we're going to take 6 and divide it into a 5.0000. I don't know how many zeros I want. 6 doesn't go into 5. 6 goes into 50 8 times. That's 48. Subtract, I get 2. Bring down the 0. 6 goes into 23 times. That's 18. 6 goes into 23 times. And then it's going to keep repeating. So as a decimal, it's going to equal 0.83. And we just want the 3 to repeat, so we put a little bar over the 3 indicating the 3 is going on forever and ever. If I want to convert it to a percent, I would need to multiply by 100, right? So I'm going to kind of ignore the decimal for right now because I'd like the percent to be a little bit cleaner. I'd like to write it as like a mixed percent. So I'm going to multiply it by 100 over 1. So I get 500 over 6 instead. So here's the deal. And you're like, well, can't I just move it over and just say the percent is 83 with 0.3 repeating? And I'm going to say, yes, you can, but sometimes my math lab will ask for it in fractional form. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you. Let's convert this to a mixed number because this is the percentage. So now we're going to divide 6 into 500 without doing any decimal stuff. 6 goes into 50 8 times, 48. 6 goes into 20 3 times, 18 with 2 left over. So this becomes 83 and 2/6%, which is 83 and 1/3%. So cool. Now, the next one is to convert the percent to both a decimal and a fraction again. So now 66 and 2/3%. So if I'm going to convert it to a fraction, I have to divide by 100. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to a mixed percent. So 66 times 3 plus 2. That ends up being, let's figure it out, 66 times 3, 18, carry the 1, 198. So this becomes 200 over 3%. So to convert it to a fraction, it's 200 over 3. I have to divide by 100, which is 200 over 3 times 1 over 100. So if I do that, I'm going to divide those out. 100 goes into 100 once, 100 into 200 twice. So this becomes 2/3, written as my little fraction. Now to convert it to a decimal, all I really have to do is take the fraction and convert that to a decimal. So I'm going to do that. 3 goes into 2. 3 goes into 2 does not. 3 goes into 20. 6 times 18, 20. Oh, 6 times 18, 20. So it keeps repeating. So for your little decimal guy, it's 0.6 with a little bar over it. Cool. All right. Now convert this percent to both a decimal and a fraction. Well, there's a couple of things you can do. To convert it to a decimal is wicked easy. You're just going to divide it by 100, move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So the decimal, done. That's the decimal, okay? To convert it to a fraction, you can use the decimal, which is 345 over 1,000. So you can use that, and then we can reduce it. Both of them are divisible by 5. I'm not sure how many times 5 goes into 345. 5 goes into 36 times. 5 into 45, 9. So 69 over 200. I divided both of these by 5. Done. So here's your decimal. Here's your fraction. Okay. Now, ordering numbers from smallest to largest, you were like, oh my gosh, I can't even stand it, right? So I'm going to just do like a little number line here, okay? We have no negative numbers, so I can start with 0, okay? And then I need to look at some of these other things. Now, personally, it's probably easiest just to convert everything to a decimal and then decide where it goes. Good? Well, 3/4 we already converted is 0.75. This is just regular 0.34. 35% is 0.35. 12.5% is 0.12 with a 5 on the end, written as a decimal. 0 is 0, 1 is 1. But what about 5/8? Well, down here we can do it. 8 goes into 5.00. 0, I think I'll need 3. 8 goes into 50 6 times, 48. 20. 8 goes into 20 twice, 16. Yay! 8 into 40 goes 5 times, 0.625. And now I can put them on the continuum here. 1 is definitely the largest. So, let's see, 0.125 is right about here. Right? Don't forget that these guys have actual zeros after them. Make sure they're all evened up. And then 0.34, 0.35, we did those. 0.625, and finally 0.750. Not exactly evenly spaced, which it shouldn't be, but basically this is smallest to largest. So if you're going to do anything when you have mixed percents and fractions, convert them all to one thing. Decimals is usually the easiest, and then do from smallest to largest. Now when you put them into the My Math Lab thing, they'll want them in the original form. So this is how it's going to go down. You're going to write the smallest is 0. The next is 12.5%, because that is the representation for 0.125. The next one will be 34 point, and the next one is 35%. Then the next one is going to be 5/8, and then the last but not last but not least, the next one's going to be 3/4, because that's the 7/5 here, right? And last but not least will be 1. So that's how you would have to input it into your My Math Lab in the original form. This is the last slide of this lesson. And I personally would keep these common equivalent forms out if you're doing My Math Lab, because you'll see 3/4, you'll see a half, you'll see a quarter. 3 1/3% is 0.3 repeating. It's a third as a fraction. And these are very commonly used percents, fractions, and decimals. So just to have them with you in this nice little format will do wonders when you're going to do your My Math Lab assignment. Ask lots of questions, especially on those more complicated things, and have a good time converting.